you free? Won't you me, baby? What set you free? I need to hear my name. Because in the midnight hour, she come on. I just figured, since we're talking about conferences, in the midnight hour, we do hear people screaming more and more and more. And but welcome to HR conferences.
Yeah, you could have either played that or shots, 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 which is the other thing that we hear at midnight.
Oh no. All these people walk any floor of the hotel trying to
I don't
walk
know
up.
if anybody's here. Look, there's nobody on the Facebook. There's nobody saying good morning. Did I break it?
Did you break it by having the comments there? Why don't you turn that off? And then if they come in, we'll try to share it. What do you think? I don't know. This is such a temperamental system. Oh my God, Kristen. Okay, yes. Look, Kristen, I'm not lying. I'm telling you, I walked up and down those halls, 2 a.m, going back to my room, just shaking my head. Shaking my head.
Because some days be like that.
Listen, HR. Now let's see if you can share it. Can you try to do the share again if you want to see if?
I don't think. Listen, it's just not.
Okay, so we'll wait to see if the next person, if it hops up here. For real. There we go. Look at that. Look at what Jackie's testing out.
Like nobody puts Gen Xers in a corner.
No one.
I knew it was going to work at some point.
It is so. First of all, I just got back from HR Florida State Conference.
How was that?
It was good. It was mildly stressful because of the hurricane. And so people trying to figure out, I mean, I left early a little bit after I was done just because you just weren't sure how much rain was going to come. And when and I drove home and it was raining and it was like sheets at time. And, that's kind of like not fun, right? So, but it was a good conference. I'm going to tell you something. Have you seen Ryan Leake? Have you ever seen him? He was very good. I mean, I've seen him on some stuff, but he did a great job.
What was his topic?
Next level leadership, and it was good. I mean, it was very relatable. It wasn't over the top. Here's the 48 steps that you have to take to be a good leader, kind of stuff. But it was
probably why I haven't seen him. I can never get past that 23rd step.
You need 48 steps. Yes, you need 48 steps. I mean, Mark, you think we're going to get controversial about conferences? You know it. Why you missed it? You must have missed the beginning. I already was talking about the rampant sex that goes on at conferences. So,
no,
yes.
No.
Now, if you don't want to be a part of that, then you sit in the lobby bar with me and Jackie and
Robin. But there might be tears.
There will be lots of tears, and for the next,
mostly from laughing. Mostly tears from laughing.
I got a birthday present from one of my children, which is a Bluetooth portable microphone that
I have one of those too.
From anywhere, so we can sing from. I'll bring mine, you bring yours, and we can just duet the entire time.
Islands in the stream. By the end of the conference, people are going to be like, "Is Dolly and Kenny Rogers here?" We were like,
people confuse me with Kenny Rogers. I mean, we got lots of issues.
And me with Dolly glasses. We need to upgrade.
It is. I will say, and Wendy, thank you for that. Yeah, like they are HR Florida from a state conference standpoint. There's a few states that really draw an audience. I mean, there were 2,200 people at HR Florida.
Florida's one of those. I can't believe even in the summer, it's so like,
Well, that's
I'm surprised.
It's
so Floridian.
It's end of August, right? Kids are back in school in Florida, and who wants to go to Florida at the end of August? Nobody. So they get the hotels and stuff for a little cheaper.
Wild. Absolutely wild.
Yes. let me listen. When you sign in and the first phrase you hear is rampant sex, listen, Steve, get your timing down better. It's not my fault if that's when you. But honestly, I wonder, like, is that why people go to conferences? Is like, is it the I have to get away kind of thing, or is it? Do you think it's really because people want to learn something?
I think it's probably like a combo because, but I mean, I think everybody wants to learn something, but then you go and it's like, how to have employee engagement through activities. And you're like, are you serious? It's always like an inch deep and a mile long. There's only a few conferences. I mean, and we talk about work human all the time because we actually learn something. It's the only
Yes.
conference that we're all like, we talk about who's going to what and we can bring all that information back. But there's some conferences where you just want to go, like, you don't, you, I mean, they're freaking expensive.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You know,
I
you
mean, this
spend
one,
$3,000 and then
if you waited on HR Florida, the registration alone was over 2,000. If you waited, plus wherever you might be traveling from or what have you, yes, for sure, and that might be hard to get approval. Like I mean, that is really a good point because I think that keeps people away. But again, in certain places, I saw, and it says LinkedIn user. I'm going to guess it's Jeff. That
usually
Wisconsin
Or
firm,
Rachel or Lex. You know, it's
1,400
usually one of those. Yeah.
for Wisconsin Sherm, they're already up to over 1,400 for their one in October.
Wisconsin?
Wisconsin, yes.
Dang.
So I like what Mark said. I mean, that for me is a big piece of it. That we just get to see a whole bunch of HR peeps in one place, right? So yes, Steve, right. Networking, reconnecting with people. I mean, I know Jenny Stone's here. Hi, Jenny. I got to see her at HR Florida because she was there as well. I mean, you just get to see some people that you don't always get to hang out with. And in
I
real life,
think, someone asked me just the other day, like, what kind of conference, what do you think is missing? And I was like, I feel like what's missing, and I think it's just where I am in my career. Like, where is that where we can actually solve real problems? Like, I wish there was
mm,
something similar to a source con where it's like, like a hackathon where we could say, this is the problem that we need to solve and we work on a solution together and bringing like our expertise together to work on those things that we could actually take home and implement and try.
yes,
you know
yes,
like like everybody knows I've been interviewing for this program manager, and one of the people that were interviewing, they're like, what's the outcome, what's the outcome? I was like, have you not done this? And it was funny because it's a guy in product, and I was like, the funny thing about DEIB work is that once you get people comfortable enough to actually say DEIB, it's Pandora's box.
yes.
Then people are
Yes.
like, I'm flat footed and you have too many stairs. I mean, like, people just come out with all of these things. And then you almost have to start over depending on the leadership or turnover. It's like, you know, there's no, and so it's like, okay, how do we solve that? How do we have a good onboarding system? Like, it would be really great. Like, how do we explain company culture when you're all remote? Things like that.
Yes, that
Real
are
stuff.
super practical. And I want to give a shout out because I see that he's here today. Mr. Benjamin McCall, I'm giving the nod. Thank you, buddy, for being here. He, speaking of DEIB, did a great job at HR Florida. Killed it in his session. So great content there. But you're absolutely right. The ones that we know for sure are going to be practical in that way, which are the ones that are legal. That's why every lawyer that comes and speaks, like, their session is overrun with people because I
It's
think,
real.
right, it's real. Practitioners are like, just give me the, step by step on some of this or how to interpret law. And we get too ushy gushy in some of these things. I mean, Ben did a great job again when in his practical approach to considerations in diversity and inclusion. There were a few other sessions that were like that. It wasn't just let's all get together and just talk about, like, how to feel warm at a meeting. Okay, well, uh,
I
okay,
mean, yeah, like, I know people need money, but I think we should do a better job. Like, like, who is this conference for? Remember when you used to have to do that?
mhm.
Or how do you need to do this? I do want to back way up to Stephanie Chin, who was like asking about was the participation? Did you see notice the demographic shift since the NAACP put Florida on the list, like on a travel warning list for Black
Yeah.
people? Did you
Yep.
notice less Black people at the conference than you did in the past?
No.
I mean,
No.
I wanted to bring it up because Stephanie asked, and then on the other
Yeah.
side, I'm like, I've been Black all my life. You ain't gonna scare me from going anywhere. I think it feel like it's more for
You know,
people than
I,
it is for
right. I don't know how to respond to that because I don't want to minimize the admonition to be, to be warned that
right.
it could feel like an unsafe space. But I have to tell you, at the conference, I think that HR practitioners, by and large, that were there, I mean, we understand what it
What's going
means
on in the
to
world?
build the workplace, and yes, and what's going on in the world. So,
You know as well as I do, not every HR practitioner knows what's going on in the
oh
world.
no, that is absolutely true. And let me tell you something. That runs the gamut, by the way, across race, gender, ethnicity, socioeconomic,
Because listen,
veteran status.
the other day, y'all won't believe this. Me and John were looking with our friends as we discussed about, and it was saying, "Oh, what can we do for employee engagement?" And they were like, "Have a potluck," and we all almost fell out.
I know.
Thanks, Trixie. Sure.
Let's have a potluck to bring people together. I'm telling you, you've heard me say this before. I know that for sure. If your diversity and inclusion, program is seventh grade social studies and everybody's bringing in tacos for Hispanic Heritage Month, come on. Come on. We got to
I
get
wish
past
there
that.
should be like some kind of like public flogging. I mean, like like it's like a warning. I feel
Yes.
like
Yeah.
it a warning, but I do feel like you know it is organizations at conferences. Like the other day I did wonder about something. I was really kind of triggered in some kind of way. So there was a
Mhm.
panel and for women, and it was like five white women on the panel, and I wondered because I don't know this. I was like, did they notice there wasn't anybody but white women on the panel? Like I just wanted to know
I
if
just want
you
to know the same thing too.
I
I
mean like
just
did you
want to
not
know.
like feel weird, or did you just get so excited? I mean, I
Listen,
see that there's conferences that like all the diversity people are all white women and the topics are like improving women in tech. Meantime, people are literally getting killed over.
can I just say this is we're gonna start trouble. I would like to submit that if your representative panel at a conference where you have, let's say, a mix of backgrounds on this panel is only the session that is speaking about diversity, you are not doing inclusion correctly. Why do all the white
Yeah,
people, why are
take
they
it
the
one
only ones
step
that
further. You are the problem.
yeah, all the other content areas of the conference, you don't see someone from different, very many different backgrounds in those. But we're going to get everybody that's black, Asian, Hispanic, whatever. They're going to sit on a panel and talk about diversity. That is absurd. That's absurd if that's all it
You
is.
are the problem. Literally, like, who was it? Somebody asked me if I would talk. They wanted me to talk about diversity and AI, and I was like, I've been like, I'm kind of sick of talking about that topic. And someone, I was, by the way, I know about other stuff. Like, I don't. I mean, I don't expect you to like have my CV memorized or anything, but
Yes,
I can talk about lots of stuff of that is going on in this moment. I
and
will
it's
tell you.
hard. Okay.
No, no, no. I just was like, it probably is off topic because I have ADHD, and it probably had nothing to do with the topic, what we were just talking about. So you go.
I will say that if you are a speaker on these panels, because I do want to come back to that, I don't want people who are on diversity topic panels to feel that I'm saying it's not a place for you to be. That's not what I mean. But I hope that if Jackie Clayton is on a panel speaking about diversity, that we also understand that Jackie Clayton can be on a panel speaking about tech stacks for talent acquisition. Like, we do recognize that she
I
has
literally was
other ways.
asked to talk about diversity when I was an editor for whatever that place was, recruiting tools. I literally for 3 years daily wrote about software.
I mean, right?
But
I don't
whatever, neither here
understand.
nor there.
I don't understand why we don't want to minimize the fact that us underrepresented groups, you know, historically disenfranchised groups can actually also be competent in particular subject matter areas. That's possible, everyone. So when you're putting these conferences together, if all you do, and there's one conference coming up that is famous for doing this, famous, and I'm all the purse lips in the world I'm gonna put together for that.
Because let me tell you something, Linda.
Famous, famous.
Famous. But okay, so I have been getting asked a lot about bias in tech, AI, DEIB regulation. There's new regulation in New York City about knowing about like the data set, where it came from, and the history of the data set. That's becoming a law before you can implement these AI solutions. Like there's really stuff going on. But what I explain to people is that you have to remember that if there is no intention behind the product, you want to know what was the intention of building the product. Like, and this isn't to cut on anybody. Like, if it wasn't built intentionally for insert group, then it
Mhm.
probably is going to have bias in another direction. And sometimes that's okay, right? Like this is a mug. The intention was to let people with hands drink coffee. It
Yes.
was not intended for people who don't have hands, right? We can see that. We can do that, right? But what you have to understand is like with other people, when I look at your conference, and you'll take my money, but it was not made with the intention
Yes.
of me to go to that conference. It becomes blatantly obvious. I mean, I used to be a member of Chief, and I quit Chief, and I said, I'll go back when they put a black person in one of those ads for get a seat at the table. It's August.
First of all, let if you're still doing ads about getting a seat at the table, I'm coming right at you.
Why I
I mean, I can't tell. First session at this last conference, first session, first speaker, both seat at the table and Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm like, I need bourbon right
Are
away.
you serious?
I'm supposed
Maslow's
to.
hierarchy of needs.
Listen, I don't
We're
hate
going there.
Maslow. I don't hate Maslow. I get it. Don't turn over in your grave, buddy.
This is
I
not
got
a
you.
fight about me and Maslow.
If we are still Maslow and seat at the table, y'all, first of all, you're supposed to drink every time that stuff is said, number one. So,
Number two,
number two, we got to get past it. Who are you speaking to about that? Have an intro to HR terminology. You want to get people started right, then have that session and let everybody say all the things, all the idioms.
Maslow was not thinking about belonging and inclusion.
It is. Here's where we're battling right now. This is, and my gosh, Mark, you are like reading my mind. I was just going to say this. One of the biggest issues that we have right now in the workplace, and I'm not putting any other people group down when I say this, but one of the largest issues we have right now is about ageism. We are struggling with how we are treating our older workers. We are struggling, and pay is inequitable when it comes to those who have been in an organization and typically are older for an extended period of time. We have problems in pay equity when it
That's right.
comes to age. I got to
And
tell you,
promotion and
crickets.
opportunity.
Correct.
None.
Crickets. Ask me if there's sessions on that. Crickets. Now, I think it's important for us to say, if we all feel some sort of way, like then we ought to do our best to get involved with some of these places so that we can bring in different programmatic thinking, because I think it's needed. You can't just keep having a session on FMLA and run it 3 times during the conference. For Pete's sake, if you need to hear
That's
FMLA three
right.
times, what is happening with your life?
That's the other freaking part because you know what? Look, it is only 9:23 and I am fully heated. I even let my coffee cool down. Fully heated.
Fully.
There's two things people need to understand. Number one, Gen X is coming up, and it's just not going to be easy. If you remember, we all learned how to make a lasagna when we were 8 years old.
That's right. Listen,
So
fry
there's
cook,
that.
fry cook, 10 years old,
There's
fry
that.
cook. There's that, y'all.
We lived without love, right? All of us lived without love. We overindulged our children.
Oh my
Now
gosh.
we're empty nesters and we're ready for action. So just keep that in mind,
Keep it
right?
in mind. Look,
But like that's the thing when I'm talking about that same panel with women, they not talking about the stuff like that. Like, can we have a panel? I understand as a woman some of those things that they're talking about and a seat at the table, but there are other things that are going on within the age that needs to be discussed at work. There are
yes,
just very common things that we try so hard to put all of these things together, and the conference is like, I don't know. We need to work on it. Get Mark Vogel on the
I
phone.
can't
Get Steve on
remember.
the phone. We need to figure this stuff out.
These are generational things. And Ben, I don't remember if it was in your session, so please forgive me. There was a session that someone shared. I think it was Ben, saying the generational thing. Let's just kind of stop with that. Like
Yeah.
let's be done with that. If we're still doing sessions on generational differences, y'all listen. I'm no Gen Y, but I like feedback. Well, what do you do with me? What do you do with me then? I don't fit the mold. And we got to stop giving phones and social media responsibility to the young ones as they come into our organizations, right? And that's the sessions. How to engage your Gen Zs by getting them involved to help run marketing at your companies. That is ridiculous. It's
Stop.
stereotyping. Yes, yes. Thank you, Ben. Woo-hoo-hoo, the memory's working. Woo-hoo-hoo, it was him.
I
So,
I I mean, I do want to pick on something, not pick on, but if you have a moment, go look at the Vanderbilt of the South, which is not Baylor. Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt in Tennessee. Vanderbilt just came out with a statement, and it was like everybody kept asking, "What are you going to do about affirmative action now that they took
mm,
it and how they figured it out?" And the Supreme Court. And what was interesting about what was interesting about what they came up with, they were like, we understand that the Supreme Court said that they did not share, like, to be clear, if you read all of it, that they were not able to prove in the case that it wasn't treating some people unfairly. Like,
yes,
it really is, a lot of this goes back, they don't want to talk about it, but a lot of this goes back to these individual institutions in the way that they were managing, not the whole thing, but it's the Supreme Court, so we know what happens when that.
yeah,
But they were talking about, you know what? When you look at the organization, we can still find people that are first generation. We can still recruit people from various locations. We can still make sure, and we guarantee that we're going to give an inclusive and diverse student body. Like, we're still going to be doing that. And this is the things that we're going to be looking for. It's like you can still get people from different backgrounds and generations and all of these things and still stay within the legal limits of the law. I think people that are saying, "Oh my God, well, I can't do diversity," it's just a cop out. They've been waiting to say that forever. I don't care. At me, bro.
well,
At
and
me.
I think that a good conference, and Aurora, I see your question. Thank you so much for asking that. I think that one of the things to be thoughtful of is it doesn't have to be either or. It can be both and, right? Like we've got to get why there are reasons why you want to have an FMLA session. There are reasons why you're going to need to have an I-9 session. Like there are still new people coming into our discipline of work who do need that kind of instruction and support. So please don't get rid of those things. But you
That's
can
right.
also have really germane and specific sessions on LGBTQIA plus, these kinds of considerations in the workplace that are going to be more for that, let's say, mid-level in terms of implementation or senior level in terms of responsiveness. You can have both. We're not saying that one necessarily is better than the other, but what I would say is who is taking a look at what the offerings are, and
That's right.
is it balanced for the audience that you want to have there? One of the hardest things that happens as people, and you and I both have seen this, as people go along in their HR careers, it is less likely that those that sit at a for a larger organization that sit at the VP or CHRO level come to these conferences. They only come
Not anymore.
speaking. Right.
There is
We're
no
losing that
conference for those
entire
people. No.
segment. Yeah.
These are
Yes.
3 to 5 years, 3 plus years, no more than 7 years, and then speakers. I mean, and I'm not, and if it was me and John and Robin and Katie, y'all don't want to see what the agenda would be, right? It would be, there would be karaoke between every session. There would be lots of finger foods. Like it would just be a thing. But somebody needs to go in there and audit. And I think that part of like being intentional, and you have to think of it, because what and I love Aurora like a sister. We were just talking the other day about how it's like looking for a green book. Like I feel like there are certain things that are going on in the background, but you have to remember that there are certain people that are feeling unsafe. Just don't be one of those places. And
Yes.
and you at this point, this reminds me a lot of the time right now, like right at the beginning, and we talked about this before when the Me Too movement came on. And prior to that, there were so many people that didn't know how to address these issues. And it
Yes.
seems like it's really easy to address these issues. But you are like, most of the things that we've implemented, remember that these systems were built a long time ago. You get used to being a certain pattern. You got Trixie in HR that's been there for 40 years and hasn't even, like, didn't even know. And the laws are coming quick, y'all. The
Quick.
new changes are
Yes.
coming quick. But the conferences, because so many people aren't actual practitioners, is not keeping up with what's going on right now. I love when it's Sherm conference season and you have Big Sherm and all the little Sherms that have all of these different things that are going on, right? But it's like you have to be able to keep up. Just like there is a HR tech, there needs to be a HR tech for like policy of like, these are the laws that are coming through. This is how you have to put it in there. This is how you can, have a real sense of belonging, because regardless of what your background is, you're looking for a place to belong at work, and people are going to vote with their feet.
Yes. Listen, this is, I have to say though, in part, it is our fault as the attendees, because Nancy asked or brought up a great point, saying, ask the audience what they want, right? What's relevant to them instead of going with the same old topics and discussions. I love that. And I know you and I both can speak to this, but let me shout out some other people: Sarah Morgan, Wendy Daly, Steve Brown, Robin Schooling, Jenny Stone. There's other people that are on here that have been involved with conferences, and the amount of times that question is asked in survey posts, like what did you miss? What wasn't covered? What could we be thoughtful of for next year? The survey responses are in the single digits.
Well, and because they're not asking the right people. That's always the challenge with surveys. And it doesn't have I've taken all of these surveys. It never is a place to say more black people. What was missing from the conference? More black people. Can I write it in? I'll check off
Please.
other and just put it in. Like
Yes.
better food. Everybody talks about food and the temperatures of the rooms. That's what people talk about on those
Yes.
conference surveys. It was too cold, and that you didn't have enough pesto chicken. Like that's what you see a lot of the
And
times.
we have to like ask better questions. I don't want to read already, 6 comments about the chicken. If look, y'all, listen, it's a conference. There's going to be chicken. Let's just get
And
by
it's
it.
gonna be cold. Bring a
Let's
sweater.
just get by it. Come on, it's chicken. Let's go. Yes, the box lunch sucks. Get it.
That's right.
Got it. Move on.
Like yeah, that like do and put other and say do not put anything about
Yes.
the food
Or
or the
just give
air.
people a link to DoorDash. Get your Chipotle shipped over to the conference center. Like, come on, get beyond this. You've got to put it in front of people to say, let's think more specifically about content. That's supposed to be ultimately one of the top 2 points of a conference. You're asking for money, especially those that get reimbursed or paid for by their company. You're telling your company this is going to be valuable for the work that I do here at the organization. So ask and point out things that are going to be helpful for you in the work. Let's get subject matter experts on that.
Well,
I
and here's the other thing with that, right? Here's the other thing with that. Remember that when you get the response back, that isn't necessarily a call out, right? Like if you put on there, would you like to see more diversity topics discussed, and you get no, that means they weren't there. You didn't attract the right people, and so you might want to look at what can we do next year to make sure that we're attracting this audience because this is something that we want to
Or how about
address.
you remind them? And in that question, let's say, here are the diversity topics that were represented at this year's conference. Boom, boom, boom. Right, whatever the three are. You know, what did we miss?
Right.
Let people understand what was already there, because sometimes that's actually a revelation to some people. Like, how did I miss that there were 3, 4, 5, 6 sessions and
That's
I
right.
went to none of them? That's my problem, not the
That's
conference.
right.
That's
And
my
some
problem.
people, like you got to in fairness, it feels like we need to do like they do at when you go to the country bar and you can go in early and you can learn line dancing before the bar opens.
Yes,
They
yes,
need to do that with conferences and networking. Some
yes.
people, they just got the money, they want to meet new people, and they're not sure. That's how I was looking at Casey, made me think of it, because Casey, we attacked Casey. Casey was sitting at a table at Work Human by themselves, and we brought
Yeah.
our 20 friends and said, "Come on, Casey, we're going to dinner."
We're
Um,
we're doing it.
but not everybody is receptive to that. Not
That's right.
everybody is looking at those types of things. And so it's like we need to give people something to take away from those situations. Like it needs to be like a onboarding. Is this your first time? Here's what to expect. Just take
And
20
actually
minutes
go.
at the opening day, the
I
opening
will give a
happy
shout out
hour.
to this last one as an example. Chad Sorensen did an orientation. First thing, did an orientation for anybody who wanted to come, but obviously the specific shout out was especially to those who had never been before. He did a great job, but there were not enough people there. And when it's optional, man, we suck. We just won't do it. And then you complain because I didn't feel like I met people. There wasn't enough networking. Well, he gave you all the ideas about how you can handle the networking and what to look for. You didn't go to the session. What do you want
Well,
him to do?
and I'll let you in on a little secret. I know we have a mixed audience, but this is what is really interesting about
What
these
is that?
topics.
Go ahead.
Listen, this is important. This is a secret. Some of y'all don't know this. If there's a conference and you have somebody talking about diversity and the person is black, right? You can have 100 black people at the conference that are all diversity experts. They will almost always go to the diversity session when they know that you're the only black speaker to show you that support. But they would do the same thing when you're showing your level of support because it's one of those things internally that you're not going to get that support. We already know you're not going to be promoted as much. We already know your picture isn't going to be up as much. So it's like I want to support you and let you know that I see you and you're here and I'm going to give you the attention. I'm going to show people in the audience.
What happened to you?
So
I
would
just heard,
still don't worry. You're fine.
are you all right? Okay.
I'm fine. And they would still come if it was teaching people about the new pay transparency laws.
Yes.
People would still go if you have people want to support within those topics, right? That's why Franny's like queer people too. If I know that there is somebody queer that's speaking, I'm going to show the support. If there's somebody who's marginalized or it's their first time, we're going. That's what I said, like in NASCAR, because I'm a NASCAR fan. And I was like, oh, you got a black driver? I'm going. We're going, we're supporting because we want to support each other. And so but we have to create these environments. People that are underrepresented have to create these environments. But we have to hold these conference organizers appropriate. I can't tell you how many times I've been gaslit where I'm like, that speaker that you let speak is low key racist. Like, let's look at their
Oh,
Twitter
not me.
feed.
I
And
wasn't.
they're like, well, we think he's fine.
Listen, I just want to say this happens across the board too, because at this last conference, I can't say names. I'd like to, but I mean, the two people that were leading a particular session, I went to not in Florida. I forget where I saw them last. Literally gave out illegal and incorrect information, not just preferential. It was wrong from a compliance standpoint. Teaching
Wrong?
60, 70 people must have been in this room. Straight up wrong and interjected opinion rather than what really was the law. I was like, hey, you can't have these people speak if this is what they're going to do. There they were this week at the next conference. Here they
Giving the
were.
same bad
I
information.
didn't go because I was like, I will honestly kill someone if I go in there. So I don't want to go in the room. But the other thing you made me think of, and I think this is a tough one for most people. When you're presenting, if you're on the other side and you're actually someone who's a presenter, we have to stop looking at inclusion as a separate topic. Any topic ought to have naturally.
Isn't it human resources? How do you get to not talk about inclusion? Look, you just decided on healthcare for everybody in your company and you're not dealing with inclusion?
Listen, first of all, Sarah Morgan, you are hilarious.
Gluten-free homophobic. Gluten-free homophobic. I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm dead.
So I had the privilege of sharing. I actually spoke at HR Florida's conference as well, and I had the privilege of presenting on forgiveness. And I have to tell you, it is by nature a human topic of how to deal with forgiveness in the workplace, how to facilitate it, because conflict just runs rampant and we let people hold grudges for years. I'll never forgive Sally Sue for taking the yogurt out of the refrigerator, right? Like, and so we manage these like fractured relationships and never teach people how to move towards forgiveness. That's right. A human condition.
That's right.
Human condition. The nature of what I'm sharing is inclusive. Everybody who presents on anything from FMLA, I-9s, all the way up through organizational design and thinking, inclusion ought to be embedded in it. It isn't a standalone topic.
This is going to be something that's going to be a little controversial. Like it's called evolution. Like the people that are afraid, we already know that all of this fear, flight, freeze response. I've based a lot of my work on thinking fast and slow and Daniel Kahneman and looking at that. We already know that's a natural instinct that people haven't gotten past if you can't figure out why this needs to be integrated. If you wanted me to show you people that are having a hard time and haven't evolved, show me somebody who's cruel. Mm-hmm. Because it takes energy and intention in order to be nice and accepting and inclusive. It's people that are at this base level that are being angry and cruel to other people. Right? Yeah. And I feel like it's at the point where it's like we have to do something, because regardless of how you feel, regardless on where you lie in politics, regardless of who you vote for, you still got to work with people.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
With everyone.
That is exactly right. And listen, there are things that level set us. And so from a conference perspective, think about those areas that level set us. And I'm going to pick on some because I can, right? So Steve Brown, when he speaks, how does he level set? He talks about relationship, and the man cries every 4.5 seconds.
Don't make fun of my love.
With the idea of that, because it's heartfelt. Our hearts ought to still be motivated by those that we get to work with and serve. And if we've lost that, honestly, I'm going to call it out. If we've lost that, you may need to take a look in the mirror and get yourself back to center or figure out something else to do. If this isn't still about people, I'm not saying you have to love people every day, all day. That's not what I'm saying. But it is still a people-centric responsibility that we have in human resources. And if you hate every person every day of your existence, then you may need to take a minute. No wonder you're going to hate somebody like Steve Brown, who's passionate about the way in which we build relationships and move people along, move them further from where they are today. Like, come on, you're not in the right room. You got to get
Listen, you're
together.
not. You know what I learned today? I might not need to wear my Tupac shirt. Maybe that's why I'm all fired
And I
up.
just like for a split second, the way you held it up so fast, I thought you lifted your shirt because I just saw skin real quick. I was
Stop!
like, okay, we're going there today.
I feel like Snoop Dogg. Remember? Well, maybe not. But you're all Gen Xers. That's what I felt when I was like having the people at the conference. Remember when Snoop Dogg was like, "You're like giving up love for Snoop? You don't love Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre." Remember that conference? And I was like, "Boo, boo!" When he was in New York, y'all ain't giving it up for Money Inc. Boo. Remember? That was me today. That was me on Butt First Copy. You ain't giving it up for Snoop Dogg. That was so funny. Anyway,
It's
hindsight.
but let me make sure I say this. It isn't just about tears. Like it's about humor, right? Like if you can lean into humor, it brings people together, and it's easier to help people to see how an inclusive and equitable consideration of whatever the topic is makes sense. That's how we need to start thinking. If you're a presenter, you've got to be thoughtful about that because our people need to see that in action. It can't be, well, I've done my, 1.25 credit hours of diversity. Come on. Come on. That can't be how we think about this.
I'm dying in the chat because yeah, you ain't giving it up for Suge Knight and Dr. Dre. Y'all ain't got no love for the West Coast. That wasn't the BET award. It was. I'm gonna watch that all day, and then I'm gonna listen to Thuggish Ruggish Bone.
Let me just tell
It's
you
the
something.
Thuggish Ruggish
I,
Bone. I'm fired up.
Ben now is like, you're in, buddy. Like this now you got this is like cocaine. You ain't never going to give this
You
time
are
up.
now. You
You're part of
just
it all.
like I already
I,
had you here. You just got bumped up,
and
and
I'm
I think
I'll
that's
tell
what we
you,
should
I'm
all wear.
kind of like fanboying on him a bit too. He really won me over at this conference. I got to tell you. So I'm there. I'm
You
there.
ain't got no love for Biggie and Dr. Dre. Listen, I'm dead. I'm gone. Sorry.
You are, yes, Bone Thugs. Come on, come on.
It's the thuggish ruggish bone. It's the thuggish.
Listen,
Listen,
y'all. Somebody give it up in the chat. Don't you want to see Jackie do a session based on the Source
Snoop,
Award? Come
I will
on,
fully do a full
a full
diversity.
session
The
on
source.
what that means.
I can have a full presentation saying
I
you ain't
believe
got no
it.
love for the West Coast.
I believe
You
it.
ain't giving up for Suge Knight and Dr. Dre. You ain't got
Gosh,
no love for Snoop.
you can do an entire session on West Coast rule and call it "You Ain't Got No
Come
Love for the
on,
West Coast."
BC.
Love that. I love that. You need to do it. Yes, Jenny. Right? Yes.
I
Yes.
used to
Yes.
do that a lot. I don't know if I have any people that used to look at my. I used to do a lot of presentations that I would compare to music or compare to this or that just to keep things fresh.
Tracy said, "I 100% need that session."
I'm gonna do it. Let's
Here's
go.
the
I'm
other
gonna do
problem,
it.
though. For those of you that are conference organizers, you got to pick her. Just so you
Oh
know,
yeah, that.
you
But
got to
I'm
pick
not an
her.
influencer.
We neither me neither. Me neither.
Look, I'm telling y'all, but first coffee
101.
fans for HR Tech, we are gonna have like we need to see you. And how are we going to see you? We're going to have like a dress code. Okay. So everybody has to wear like a music t-shirt one day. We're going to have the 101 shirt the other day. We're going to have to do it so we can see you from across the room.
Yes.
So
And
we
we're
can
going to
see
need a
you.
broadcast from HR Tech. We got to
But
find a vendor who's,
promise,
yeah.
nobody tell anybody who isn't in the BFC. So, oh, it's about the BFC. You ain't got no love for the BFC? I'm dead.
We are a mess.
You ain't got no love for. I
Please,
literally applied for being an influencer for the same organization that told me I'm not an influencer, and I feel
some sort of way.
some kind of way about it.
I know. I'm with
How are
you.
you supposed to apply to be an influencer when they just told me good and well I'm not an
You're
influencer?
not
Like,
an
what am I
influencer.
supposed to do about that?
Well, listen, there's a whole bunch of us has-beens on this chat. I just want to make sure you know you're in good company. The other people that were on that list no longer on that list. Just so you know. Just so you know. Because I guess we're old. Let's talk about ageism again.
Let's talk about age. I know I'm old when sleeping hurts. When it makes noise, when you need WD-40 when you get out of bed.
Tell me. Tell me. I try. I get. You all know. Some of you, especially, know. I get up super early, and I try to be quiet. I don't want to wake up my executive producer. I just want to tell you, the knees, the elbows, everything, the cracks that they make as I'm walking. It's unreal. It's so
Are you
loud.
looking at who got bumped from the influencer?
Oh yeah. Listen. Look, y'all. I didn't even. Every year they tell me I'm 101.
They don't
101.
have love for the BFC.
You so close, John. 101. You so close. Okay. You so close. Yeah.
Listen, I will tell you, like, there are some things that need to. I used to run a conference, and I didn't realize how stupid and problematic I was. So I ran. I was with the organization. I was with the JCs. Some people have active chapters. It was when I lived in Florida.
Wait, hold your story. Hold that story. Jenny, I see you're no longer an influencer too. I just want to make sure that I say before Jackie continues with the story that we're going to give full attention. There are people who are named influencers that have no idea that they were named influencers because they don't participate on anything online or in any other way. So I'm not really sure how those people would ever know that they are an influencer of anything, which is fascinating to me. Jackie, please
If
continue.
you got bumped on the list, put a one in the chat. Anyway, so
What?
put a one in the chat. Put a one in the chat.
Yes.
So I was a conference chair, or I ran from the state board something called first timers. And what first timers was, everybody when they came and it was their first time, we would we give them shirts that had first timers for every day so they could find each other. And then
Oh,
we gave them a packet. And so it would be find the person who runs the city of Vero Beach, find somebody who's won and speak up, find somebody. And then they come back, and then we had a winner. We had a first timers winner, and it was the person who got the most signatures, right? So it
oh,
encouraged that. It's like, and on the back of the shirt, it said, "Please be gentle. It's my first time." That's what it said on the back. Was the problematic part. It said, "Please be gentle. It's my first time." But it was true because the reason that was so important is like going back what you were talking about with ageism.
yeah.
What would happen is people who were in these cliques at these conferences would be so frustrated because these people would come up and interrupt the conversation because it was hard to get the answers because it's people that participated for a long time and they'd be in these side chatters. So it was like, don't get mad at me. I'm going to interrupt your conversation and know all of these various things, you know? So
I mean, first of all, you see all the ones people are putting in, just so you know, 11111.
where is Jeff Polkowski? Because I think, is he a LinkedIn user?
He's a LinkedIn user. Yeah. His
If you're,
ensemble is socks, shoes,
we can't
custom.
even say who's a LinkedIn user. We don't know. We love you,
We
LinkedIn
do.
user.
Come on, Jeff. I know it's
We
Jeff. We
need
love
that on a shirt. It literally needs to say, "I'm LinkedIn." We got to get these shirts. You know, the conference has been
you.
too
We
much.
do. We'll
We've
take care
got
of
to
that.
get that.
Jamie, I know you're on here. You got to make sure we get this done.
Yeah,
But the idea of let's make sure we're clear. We are tongue in cheek, honest. I am about the influencer thing. I'm gonna sleep tonight. It's all
yeah,
right, y'all.
yeah.
You know,
It's just funny. It's just funny.
it is funny. Jackie and I are gonna, log in using our app to our bank account, make sure we're in the positive. We're gonna sleep tonight. It's gonna be
We don't do
okay.
this for the funny part is that we don't do this for that. Like that's what we're really trying to
No,
help people. We're really
we
trying to
really
take people to
do.
that next level. And so we want to be able to help as a resource. And so I wish that everyone had that mentality of giving, you know. It is I serve at the pleasure of the, whatever person in charge.
Listen,
I'm trying to I
you
serve
have
at the pleasure of people.
you just have to create your own buzz, right? Like and I mean this genuinely. It's a privilege for me to be able to speak at conferences.
Absolutely.
I'm so grateful that anybody, I don't care if 5 people show up, have a desire to want to hear a perspective that I may share. I think it's wonderful. And the conferences need to appreciate that. If you are planning that kind of conference, then appreciate the fact that that speakers really ought to have that kind of spirit. I'm not coming in demanding my cigars and Diet Coke and, terry cloth robes on my bed. I need, this, that. Look, y'all, it ain't no Mariah Carey coming to speak at your conference. Relax. Just relax. Relax. I mean, am I wrong? Just
Ain't no
relax.
Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey coming to your conference. If somebody is at that level, they may not be speaking to the audience that you really want them to be speaking to. If you're that far removed, if I need stanchions because I know I'm going to have 400 people waiting in line to get their book signed that I've written, that ain't the person you want. I'm telling you, it's not the person. What you want is you want people who are going to be able to relate and
That's right.
engage.
That's
Relate
right.
and engage.
And
That's
people like, I understand that people need money and it's expensive running these conferences and it's expensive feeding all these people, but we just also need to make sure that there is a space for people that might need a little extra assistance in going to these conferences, that are having to manage difficult environments and may not have that support. And so for that, I'm thinking more of like manufacturing HR. Like,
oh,
there is so much, and then
yes.
nobody, it's very difficult within manufacturing to convince why we have to go to this conference and why I need to take these days off and how this is going to be that, or in entertainment, or people who work HR in a franchisee model. Like, these are things that you don't see enough. And so there's that piece. And then also, if you're going to have a conference that has 200 speakers at it, can you also have um, a event that's at the level of a person who's a speaker, or I don't want to say expert, like, but have something that's a little bit more high level for those people. And also, I think everybody is going because they want to be better at their job. Because let's just be real, we can go to Ibiza. It would be cheaper for us to go to our spring break to Ibiza than
Yes.
it is to go to stinky old Vegas. Right?
Yes.
Like, where I'm not paying to hang out with friends. I love that I get to have my friends. I love that I get to see
Yes.
people, and I love that I get to have that networking opportunity. But it's not about friends. It's about learning,
Yes.
networking, and giving other people, opportunity to find out about what's going on in the world, how I can keep up.
I have been so fortunate to be in HR for over 30 years. Really. I mean, we can tease about it and all that stuff, but what a career over 30 years. It's my responsibility to be able to give back in the
That's right.
ways that I was invested in. It's
That's right.
my responsibility. That doesn't mean that everybody in the same, let's say, 30 plus years, everybody has to be a conference speaker. That's not what I'm saying. But
No.
figure out the ways in which you can give back. If that's writing a blog, if that's hosting, some kind of newsletter that you push out, something where you're helping. If it's mentoring at the local level, go to the college in the area and see how you can help to be a mentor for those that are coming up and into through a business major in some way. Like, give back in the ways that you can. And what we need to do as attendees is go see the people on the schedule that you really want to see and support.
That's right.
Because if the same people that we're complaining about, right, who don't really give us value, who aren't thoughtful about an inclusive perspective, it's the same topic around, how to, get out of sexual harassment complaints. Like, the more that everybody still goes to those sessions, the more that that's going to be the kind of sessions that conference planners will keep scheduling because the room was full. I'm not saying that it doesn't matter ever. I'm just saying it's our responsibility also to go to those sessions that we think
And
really.
fill out the speaker survey.
Yes.
Fill
Yes.
out the speaker survey. Don't talk about the food or that the room is cold, but fill out honestly for those that could use, some assistance. And all honestly, with the people, like, to let people appreciative of the diversity of thought that's in the room.
Yes. Listen, I appreciate the fact that Steve Brown is ancient. And so and I'm right on his coattails of ancientness. Like, we get that we're people of a certain age. But that actually doesn't even mean that Steve and I think the same, right? Or Robin and I think the same in every matter.
You caught yourself. You're like, okay, well, maybe.
Maybe. Like pretty darn close. But like, don't make assumptions to be like, well, every white guy who's been around for 30 plus years is going to say the same thing. That's not true, because you talked about manufacturing. I was in, manufacturing and distribution. I was in banking and finance. I was in retail and restaurant. That's very
Hmm.
different than someone who was
Very
only,
different.
technology or only in insurance. And I'm not knocking it, but
No.
there's different ways to look at certain things. Look at the experience and the types of experience that people are bringing to the table as well. And those of you who are planning conferences, you're on those planning committees, look for that kind of diversity of background as well. Ask
Because
people.
yes, it doesn't have, and there is a difference. Like there are things that we can learn from consultants that's different than people that are in-house practitioners. Like you have all of these different spaces. I mean, I think um I went from talking to organizations and mapping up strategy that I didn't have to implement. It was much easier.
Yeah.
Much
Yes.
much
Well,
easier.
yeah.
And now I'm like, wait, I wish I could go back to some people and be like, don't do that. Like I know
You,
I suggested that,
yes.
but I mean, it's like we have these lessons to learn, and I think that there are topics that we have to address differently. Maybe we need to come up with different words. Like we need employee engagement, but it's not the same, and you can't do it without DEIB, right? Like
It's not
we
the
need
survey. Employee
experience, but
engagement
we don't.
isn't the survey.
It's like we have these things that sound the same, but they can't be the same now. They can't be the same now.
And I would say, yes, and Steve is right. It is about our passion and authenticity.
That's
And
right.
there are people who are 25 years old who are passionate about this work, just like there's people that are, 85, like Steve, who are still passionate about the work as well.
85. Also, understand that it's the algorithm. We've been doing this. That's how we've been doing this since the beginning of the internet. That's how old we are.
Don't
That's
say
why
that.
we keep coming up. It's true, dude.
It is true.
You know what
Gosh.
also it is? It's the thuggish ruggish bone.
That-
It's the thuggish. It's
Listen,
10 o'clock.
this is a good one. Thank you all. We had like a bajillion comments today. So thank you so much,
Yes.
everybody getting
Yes.
here. We loved it.
I appreciate y'all and have a great rest of your week. Clink, clink.
Bye, y'all. See
Bye.
ya.